All right, Christy, did you get the recording notification?
Yep, we're good.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, let's call this work session to order. This is a little bit of a different work session. We have some technical gremlins that we're doing tonight. So we are going to call an audible, wing it, whatever you want to call it. But we have Councilmember Mock joining us remotely. So that's why we're in council chambers right now. So up first on our agenda is the 2026 street project. Mr. Schmidt.
All right. I'd hardly call it winging it, but I think we're gonna get this done, so. Christine, sound check, can you hear me over here okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay. You got the slides, Brenda?
Yeah, we pull up the family.
Okay. So we want to take an opportunity tonight, Mayor and Council, to do a kickoff discussion. Next year, we have we have two street projects, essentially, two different project areas. So we have a local project and a state aid project that we're proposing at this time, which is consistent with the pavement management.
Hold on just a second.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that or this?
We are not.
Okay.
Of course, we have this morning. Momentarily.
Yeah. Thanks, you bet. I know how to do that if you want to stick through my shit.
Okay, I was seeing the presentation online,
Yep.
but now I'm not. Oh, here it comes. Okay.
All right.
Take two.
Take two. Take two.
Holidays.
Okay.
Oh, I have this. You okay?
There we go. How about that?
That works.
Is that okay?
We can see it.
Okay, so wanted to just, again, take the opportunity tonight to talk about what the projects would be for next year, if the council so chooses. So wanted to kind of just step back, talk about the goals of the pavement management plan again. Looking at the 26 project in particular, maybe a couple items you want to get some direction on, and then talk about next steps. So 2025 was an important year. This was kind of the fifth year of the plan. So we took an opportunity to take a fresh look. We did all new street ratings for the whole city. Andrew and his team completed that this summer. And we kind of took a fresh pass through the entire 10-year pavement management plan. And you saw that at your August 4th city council meeting. So that's kind of the background of where things are at. Tonight, we want to take a look at what the next year's projects will be. So these goals are all very familiar to you, but number one, extending the pavement life is goal number one of the city. So by doing that, you ultimately decrease the cost for the city. And
I hate to interrupt. I'm so sorry. All I can see is the opening slide that says the maintenance project kickoff and the date. Is it supposed to be turning to another slide?
Yeah.
What was that?
Give us 1 second.
Okay, if not, I have my computer open. If you're following the slides that are in the packet, I can just look at it that way too, if you can't get it.
Yeah, but the Zoom is what we're gonna share, tomorrow for the recordings, so we can kind of go with that. Be great.
It doesn't advance.
And I'm still just seeing the home screen. If I go to where I can see all four of the chambers and Brenda and everything, then the presentation is so far on the other side that no one will be able to see it.
Yeah, it's only intended for you to see Aaron Schmidt, not the screen. That's the best we can do.
Okay,
Okay, so on slide 4, as I was saying, ultimately, we're trying to set budgets and set clear expectations for, the 10-year plan. And we did that this summer. Lastly, trying to group projects by neighborhood to the extent possible is the goal, just because we don't want to try to disturb multiple areas if we can avoid it. So, for example, we've been in the Carver Bluffs neighborhood the last few years. So by the end of next year, we'll only have 1 year left, and then we'll be done in that whole development for many years. So that's kind of the goal, is as much as we can with, the age of the streets and such, try to kind of go to development by development to the extent possible. And you've heard me say this many times, but think of reclamations, which is, grinding up the entire pavement section and starting fresh. That's about twice as costly as a mill and overlays. So we want to try to get those mill and overlays prioritized in the plan, which I think we've done a really good job of doing. But if you let those streets go, you start getting into the mid-20s is kind of what we're seeing, and they start to flip and go into the reclaim. So then you're automatically spending twice as much money just by letting things slip a few years. So that's really, pushing those mill and overlays has been key to our plan. So with that being said, as I mentioned, we've been in Carver Bluffs a few years now, and we really have 2 years left down in that area based on the plan. The area that I show in red is what we're proposing for 2026, and that includes a combination of reclamations and mill and overlays based on the street ratings and what we're seeing in the field. So Ridgecrest is a reclamation, and then you can see some of those other streets there as the mill and overlays. So that's the general intent in the Carver Bluffs neighborhood. Looking just out to 2070, you can see those final streets in green. That would be what would be done in 27, and then we'd be out of there for a while.
Did you reprioritize any of these since the last time we talked? I seem to recall Carver Creek Place was in 27.
We reprioritized this summer. I don't remember that one in particular. I know that one piece of Carver Creek Place went to a reclamation based on what we were seeing, and then Overlook Drive shifted to 27 based on what we think will be an adjacent project on the County Road intersection improvements associated with the future Summerfield development. So we feel that would tie together nice to get that piece done at the same time. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. In addition, so this is all local street maintenance funding. We're looking at doing a fog seal on White Pine Way Trail. That's west of Jonathan Carver Parkway. That trail is about 4 years old now, so we get that sealed up. And then, as in all program years, we always preserve $35,000 just for general patching, other issues that come up throughout the year, and that'll be reflected in the cash flow summary at the end of the presentation. Okay, good over there. Keep going. Okay, jump into the state aid streets on that in that program. we're looking at doing Mount Hope Road in 2026. And that's all with state aid funding. And that would be that whole stretch, it would be a reclamation project. The existing trail is in pretty rough shape, so we'd be looking at to replace that trail in conjunction with the project. And then one piece we want to talk about in the next slide was possible trail connection from Lions Park down to Old Harbor Road. So there's a little bit of a gap in the trail system that I'll show you here in a little bit. And then also looking at the intersection improvements at Old Harbor Road itself. Lastly, all the trails that were redone with the Jonathan Carver Parkway project a few years ago, we're looking at doing flag sealing on those trails as well, which will seal those up and put those in good shape for a number of years to come.
Aaron, can I ask a quick question? On Mount Hope Road, because that's a pretty heavily traveled road, how long do you think that reclaim, like how long will that road be down?
For construction,
Yeah,
well, that'll probably be a couple months at least. It'll be a pretty substantial project.
But it's not a full closure.
I guess we haven't gotten that far. I didn't thought about that, to be honest with you.
Courtney, what was your question?
My question was if it was gonna be a full closure, because
Okay,
mill and overlays and.
Traditionally, we have, again, I haven't really thought about that. If there's a detour route that would make sense, it would make it a lot quicker and less painful, but we'll have to see. There's direct access for some residents on there, so. Yeah,
okay. I've heard a lot of people who live off Mount Hope who are excited to have the road redone, but then the next question that we're gonna get is, well, how long is it gonna be closed down? So.
Yeah.
It'll be extensive, okay.
it's probably gonna end up being a road closed to through traffic, similar to what we do on all the other reclamations, just because of the residential access needs. So,
But a couple months is probably safe to tell people?
yeah, I would say it's gonna be a couple months at least, just with the trail work and, concrete replacements, that sort of stuff, that all takes time.
Okay, thank you.
Just get with the weather dependent, right? They say for all these components, weather dependent.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a hard closure. We always have to provide access to the residents that need to access it to get to their homes. It's gonna be closed to through traffic for the entire project.
Yes. Okay, so talking a little bit about that trail connection. This is a picture looking south going down the hill, just south of the Lions Park. You can see here, there's a narrow boulevard on our right-hand side of the screen. Not really room to put a trail there today with the retaining wall. And then also on the left side of the screen, which is more where the residential driveways are and such, there's some definite grade complications with tying into driveways and cross slopes and those sorts of things. So there's a lot to think about here, but I think it is an important gap in the trail network that the council should consider. It's one of the routes that we show on our master trail plan, but unfortunately it's an on-street piece from the Lions Park down to downtown essentially. So, talked about some of the challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges is right now, it's really not part of the funding plan for the project. It is one that we previously did include in the LRIP application in 2023. So that's the local road improvement program. We were unsuccessful in that cycle. But the council is going to be seeing us bring forth another application this fall, essentially for the same project scopes. But that would be a way to fund that trail piece. Otherwise, there would have to be a different sort of funding plan that would need to be considered by the council to make that happen. Kind of rough, back of the napkin type estimate I put together last week. I'm thinking it's probably a $400,000 to $500,000 issue to make that happen.
How much does it have to be widened to accommodate that?
It probably have to be widened probably 8 or 9 feet on the retaining wall side, so that either that retaining wall would have to move back, or you'd have to basically put it on the other side of the road, kind of like what we did on Sixth Street, where it'd be behind the back of the curb. But then you're tying into all the driveways and there could be weird, tie-in slopes and that sort of stuff, so.
So your estimate is for removing the retaining wall?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you drive up Mount Hope on the left where this is, the retaining wall dives into a private property and then their driveway exists, so it's complicated. I mean, it's not just pushing the retaining wall back, we'd have to design a way to tie in to that driveway and grading, etc. So it's more than just moving the retaining wall back, similar to what we did on in some areas. This is a whole nother kettle of fish, as my dad would say.
That retaining wall on city is at the park.
It's in the right of way, yeah. And yes, a large part of it is kind of behind the park, so we have a lot of the room that we need to do it just on city property, but as Brent mentioned, there definitely would be some temporary easements needed from residential properties, and those sorts of things, so. It's a complicated issue, but we wanted to bring it up and kind of get direction from the council on, is this worth exploring, or is this not gonna happen at this time, so. That would be issue number one in particular that I wanted to bring up, and then issue number.
Go ahead, Christie.
Okay. When I know that we have some trail minimum widths that we generally go by, that's kind of when we're putting in new developments, so that obviously we have space there because we're just designing it. Will we, or I hope we'll consider that maybe we don't meet that minimum, maybe it's only 6 feet rather than 8 feet or whatever it comes out to be, because we are retrofitting it into kind of a tight area. So I know there'll be more to come, but this might be, from my opinion, this might be a spot where we have to let go of some of that minimum trail sizing if we're going to consider this a actual trail, that we may not be able to fit that huge width in there that we do when we put in new developments or some of our other linking trails.
Does that change anything then? We're gonna move the retaining wall?
I'm sorry, what was that, Eric? Could you say that again?
This might, we have to check on this, but we are getting state aid funding on this road, so our plan's gonna have to comply with state aid rules, so generally I would support that concept, Councilmember Conrad, but on this one, we're not gonna be able to go below minimum standards because we're using that state aid funding, so
Sure.
just, it's gonna be a non-starter because we'll send that plan to be reviewed by the state aid team and they'll flag it and send it back to us.
Okay. All right. For sure. All right. Thank you.
It was a similar situation. Basically, state aid standards are 8-foot minimum with 2-foot clear zones, so. If those walls on 6th Street are back 12 feet on it. Is really the minimum that they would allow.
Should we discuss this?
Sure.
before go?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, for me, this is really important. This feels like this is a huge gap in our trail system, especially like in the downtown area. I think it's one of the last remaining gaps, maybe short of kind of heading out of town by the bluffs. And I think that this is really important. I would hate to see us put any money into Mount Hope Road without figuring out this trail and at least saving room for it. The numbers are big for a, what would it be, 3 or 4 block trail. But I think that this is really important to have a trail connection for downtown.
Yeah, Courtney, I'm sorry, there's a little lag, so I don't want to, if I'm jumping
Nope.
over people. I agree. So this is one of our really like kind of last gaps here. And we've talked about it for the last, how many 20 years, and because it is such a big project and because that retaining wall is so massive, that how and when was the right time to get this done. That is a very steep incline on that hill. And I see kids on bikes and things coming up and down that. And I'm fearful that there's going to be an accident. And I can't believe that there hasn't been one yet. So I agree. I'd like to see how the numbers shake out, of course, and what happens with that, because we obviously have to pay attention to it because it's going to be a large amount, and how it comes in, and hopefully hopefully we can find the funding, outside funding for it as well. But I agree with you, Courtney. This is, to me, a very important gap that we have, especially for safety reasons, not just for modal reasons to get people, I want to go up and down the hill, but just for safety on mine is a big one.
So the mechanics of doing this, you did some napkin calculations. Do you have confidence it can be done in that price range? Is there a limit to where we say, this is really important, but if it's gonna be 800,000, we just can't do it? I'm asking council too on that. What's the limit if it takes more than this? You mentioned property concerns, right of way concerns.
Yeah, what I did is I looked at the pricing that we got on 6th Street because those were similar walls. Let's say we had some issues tying back into the woods behind it and stuff. So I used that. I put an inflationary factor on it. Just did some rough. I literally assumed a 12-foot average height wall times 1,000 feet, and just did that sort of calculation through the trail area on there, and that was about it. So it's pretty rough what I did, but I'm just saying ballpark.
Maybe I misheard you. Do we have to get some concession for property owners there?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna need temp easement for sure. If not, I don't know what that dynamic will look like tied in the wall to the private property, as Brent mentioned. Where that public versus private cutoff would go, but at least there will be some temporary easements at a minimum to make this happen.
But not permanent acquisition.
I don't. Maybe. There could be, yeah. It really depends on, again, where does our city wall end and where does their private wall start?
And that's my only concern is, I agree for the need of this. I know it's a big gap. It's a big hole in the trail system. I completely agree. I just don't want to find out that we have $1 million project to do it. That's out of scope.
It looks like you've moved because you have something to say. Go ahead.
I don't want to keep turning
No.
the camera. It is. The LRIP application that Aaron mentioned, that has a huge trail project in it too, to connect to the bluffs. So you're not based on how we have applied for it, would that service both of those trails, this one and that one? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, there's still
Right.
a gap,
That's what I.
a funding plan.
That's what I understood it. So the LRIP will not fund this. So, and you don't have to decide that tonight. But if you, based on what I understand of our finance, the council would have to be able to, or want to support $500,000 worth of bonding to get that trail done. There's not the street or the pavement management plan or the street maintenance fund doesn't have the capacity, doesn't contemplate this trail. I don't believe we could use park dedication. So you could do bonding, or you could do an interfund loan from an enterprise fund, but in order to kind of commit to that, it would be kind of a new source of funds. And I'm not trying to dissuade you, but that's the biggest piece when we started kind of preparing for this, is that this is a special call out. And all the things that the council has said, I would say, not that you're looking for my advice on that, but I think they're completely accurate. People use that section. The alternative, is going through Lions Park, but as you know, people always take the most direct access, and that's not it. So, but if you want to think about that and, discuss it at a later work session, but moving forward with this section would require a funding plan to accommodate that. There isn't a ready-made grant application that funds this.
State aid can only be used for streets and not for trails.
Well, it can be used for trails, but the state aid that we have access to just funds this project. So we get X amount per year. And so what we're getting is able to fund what we have.
Dip a little in the negative into state aid, but that's.
We can borrow in ahead.
That would be the only thing.
But we might be in a position where we might need to do that just on the meat and potatoes of this, but we get about 400,000 a year.
Yeah.
So we, that'd be an alternative as well, just depends on, where you go with that, because it's also been viewed as an alternative on the former CASA 40 project, is that if we don't get LRIP funding for that, which is competitive, then in order to decrease our reliance on bond issuance that we would use, because that's a state aid route, we would use state aid funding for that. So looking at kind of the street curb gutter, that kind of as the meat potatoes and the trails, that's something different. But again, you set the strategy and the priorities and we'll go out and get it for you.
Go ahead, Christy.
So in the presentation, number 3 says that it's proposed for inclusion in the grant application. So I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So is any of the grant application able to be applied toward this? I mean, is it partial funding? Is it, if it's included in the grant application, I'm just confused as to why there wouldn't be any funding for this trail.
It's included in the application, but if you kind of add up all the sources and uses, even with a grant application, even with a successful grant, you wouldn't have enough sources of revenue to fund the entirety of the ask.
Okay.
So
Okay,
we included it in there, but those, like, so if, I think the grant application is for $1.5 million, but let's say the total cost of this project is $3 million, that includes Mount Hope and Old 40 and the trails. So, and we have $1 million from the county. I'm just dealing with round numbers for the sake of conversation. You might have anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million to like cover what wasn't covered by the county, what wasn't covered by state aid and the LRIP. We don't know what that number is, but we were offering to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And so I guess I'm looking for like a flavor from the council on, is this trail only going to happen if we get grant funding for it? And then like in what order, do you want that to occur? And again, this is just the first of probably several discussions.
Okay, so when I was looking at that, so when I was reading this before the meeting, being that it was included in the grant application, that made me really like, yes, obviously, yes, let's do that if we could get the majority of the money. But now looking at it and saying that it probably won't cover it, this is a big chunk as compared to, I guess, what I was thinking, which is why we have work sessions, right? So we can go through all this. But I was thinking that more of it was going to be able to be, or more likely to be able to be funded by that grant. I guess for that for numbers that are getting that big, I don't know. I'll let the rest of the council chime in on what their thoughts are.
Still not really clear what we put in the grant application. Mount Hope Road.
Yep. Well, okay, so didn't put anything in the grant yet because you get to choose ultimately what it is. It's due in December.
Okay.
But what we did last time, it was the Main Street West Trail.
Okay.
Going all the way out to JCP.
Yep.
It was the intersection at Broadway and Main Street West.
Okay.
It was the intersection at Casey's, and it was this piece of trail. And it was,
So it feels like a $4 million project that we're asking.
and it was the piece going out of town on Old Fair Road on 61. It was literally all of it.
Okay. And the max amount of this grant is 1.5.
1.5. And that funding plan included regional solicitation of $2.5 million, which was also unsuccessful in the last cycle.
So it was a $2.5 million grant and a
Yep.
$1.5 million.
And a 1.5 LRIP, and then the $1 million that we already had from the county. It was like a $5 million project
Okay.
at the end of the day for all of that stuff.
And $5 million with state aid, yes, there for all of that stuff. I guess,
Yes.
I guess what I'm worried about is like, let's be reasonable, like, if we have to chunk this down, phase it, like, let's not ask for a $1.2 million grant on a $4 million project. Let's, like, really make sure, I still think that this is important. I also still consider, continue to be dazzled by how expensive it is for, again, a 3 to 4 block section of trail, but this is important and it's been a priority to tie up these trail gaps for a while. So, Lori,
I had two things, well, I guess probably three. So first, I would support, if we had a bond for the estimated cost, I would support the city in, contributing for that, because to me, yes, we're all recognize it as a gap in our trails. My second thing is, if it hasn't already been decided if the trail would go like the way traffic flows north or traffic flows south, I would just like to know like the pros and cons. And then understanding how the grants have contingencies, you know, like the width or, you know, bike trail or no bike trail. I would like to see, if we're unsuccessful with a grant or we don't put it in a grant, what would it cost for the city? But knowing that we have a little more flexibility in that we wouldn't have to do their standards.
We still have to, the standards aren't contingent upon the grant because we get a state aid contribution for our entire system, and Mount Hope is in that system. So the standards never relinquish. They're always gonna be there. And the trail wouldn't have like it would be on the east or west side of the street off. So it doesn't really flow with traffic. It goes both directions.
I think I would know why that's.
Just conflict with driveways and tie-in for grades, etc. There's power lines on that side as well, which we all.
You cross it, okay.
They cross it and then cross back.
Yeah,
you said it would go on the west.
West side.
okay, all right, so that's already figured out.
We also, just one more, we also talked about, could we go on top of the retaining wall? So we're exploring options. We know that we have more work to do. We can, I think, you know, if it's okay with the council, I think we're taking in that it's important to the council, like this, and we'll keep kind of tinkering with it, but you don't have to land on an answer. This is just kind of a project preview. We're gonna do neighborhood meetings in the Mount Hope and the Carver Bluffs neighborhoods. So this is, you know, exactly what we needed, but don't feel like you have to land the plane on like how we're gonna do this and how it's gonna be funded. We just want to kind of this is kind of the, what they call it, hors d'oeuvre section of appetizer. Right.
I feel challenged, like the state aid could do it without taking that money, or it just doesn't work that way, only because I realized like with the bike trail, like that came with the grant, but what if we would have been like, oh, we really on 6th Street, we didn't want the bike trail.
And we can't negotiate state aid. It's just, it's either in or it's out.
I never want to say like no to grant money, but.
Well, state aid's not grant money.
Okay, that's.
It's a direct allocation we get for being a community over 5,000 people to maintain major roadway sections through our community. So 6th Street, Mount Hope Road, Main Street West, we part of 3rd where the bridge is, right? Or
That one's a little different, Brent, but to help you out, Wildwood, like Highway, you know, think of like kind of like
Ironwood.
reflector roads.
Okay.
Yep.
I was looking at safety standards, but.
I think our takeaway is,
Yeah.
it's an important section. Let's see what we can do to like one, construct it efficiently, and two, and clarify what our funding approaches could be. Is that fair?
Yeah. I understand the importance of this trail gap. I've walked it many times and I've heard people downtown complain about it, but I'm deeply, deeply concerned about the cost, especially with the big projects that we have coming up or theoretically coming up. This is just, again, more money coming from our budget, and that's a lot of money for a very short section of trail. That's my.
Okay, I think we're good on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
we'll continue then. Okay, so I mentioned the intersection at Old Carver Road and Mount Hope. This was one that was, kind of front of mind in the visioning study that we completed as part of the turn back of South Morty. So now that that's a city street, we have the ability to do things that we want with it. And as a result of that study, there was a concept developed that looked like what you see on the screen today. And basically what that did is it removes the large skew angle of Mount Hope. So think of looking all the way around your left shoulder as you approach Old Carver Road and trying to see if traffic's coming over your left shoulder. That's what we're really trying to get away from. Obviously a huge safety issue. So what it would be doing is it would be squaring up that intersection. In addition, on the Casey side, so opposite, there's two entrances that are very close together. And it would be making that more of a conventional four-legged intersection. This is kind of what we've done, the gateway to downtown. So one of our gateways into the city. Speed control is a big factor here. So really narrowing down that typical section. Maybe adding some concrete pavement to make it feel tight, make it feel like you're really entering a city and getting people to slow down. So those are all some of the goals of the intersection improvement. Again, there's complications with this one as well. First and foremost, the property to the, I guess in the northwest quadrant, there'll be some easements that will likely be necessary to make that happen. So we haven't done all of our research at the county yet to see if there's any existing rights there, but there might be some easements needed to build that road as it's currently proposed. So again, this was another piece of the LRIP that was previously applied for, as I just mentioned. So the goal, again, I believe would be to include this unless the council wants to go a different direction. But that would be one source of funds for that. Otherwise, depending on how many things we do here, again, we're looking in that $500,000 range, maybe upwards of $750,000, depending on kind of final aesthetic treatments and such. So,
I jump in there.
yes,
So, just to clarify, this only happens if we get the LRIP money. So you're not
Yeah.
including this in the street maintenance project.
okay, good.
So this is just kind of a preview. We just thought it would be important to talk about this because we're doing the work on Mount Hope Road. We're not offering to include this at all. This is I would say a separate discussion topic from the trail, but oftentimes, as you know, when we do projects and we do a fresh mill and overlay, and then if we happen to get the grant in 2026 or 27, then folks might be saying, hey, you just ripped up a street that you were working on. So we're just providing you with the kind of the full view of what the future of this intersection looks like, but it's really to be determined.
Good point. I would say if we would get the funding, then we could roll it into the project, but yeah, it's a separate issue, but one that is good for the council to see if you get questions about it, so. Okay, I'll pause there.
I have one question, where that number 2 circle is, not so much the pavement, or my question isn't, but when you enter in, would that be a one-way? And then north, that white car going out, would that be a one-way?
No one.
Casey's are saying, that'd be, yeah, two-way circulation there.
Two-way circulation.
Go ahead,
It's an
President.
engineering word.
Courtney, did you say go ahead?
I did, yep.
Okay. I have a couple questions. So one is, we're coming in through Depot Park, but that's also Casey's parking lot, correct, on that end? They own that property. Is that correct? So where the new entrance, I guess, by Depot Park would be coming in, do we have issues with Casey's? Like we have to get property for them, or do they have to agree to that reconfiguration? How does that work?
Yeah, we could have a conversation with them. I think what we show there is actually going through Depot Park property.
Yeah.
Chris, between the GIS website, and it looks like Casey's lot ends at the end of their parking lot on the north-ish side.
Okay.
Task force for that project too, and Casey's was part of that, the manager was in that.
Sorry, Aaron, I didn't catch that.
Aaron Smith is sharing that Casey's was a part of the concept development for this, so they're aware that this would be coming eventually.
Okay, okay, perfect. And then my other question is, when I'm looking at all of these estimated costs and these asks, are we asking for too much? Are we hurting ourselves from getting anything? Or will they piecemeal it? Is it all or nothing? Because if and I don't know what a typical ask to this is, if this is kind of in the range of what other cities do, or if it just runs such a huge gamut, there's no kind of average. But I just want to make sure that we're not hurting ourselves in these grants too by asking for more than we think is available or possible, and then we get nothing? Or again, can they pick and choose inside the grant?
They can fund at varying levels, but based on conversations we've had with their team, like this type of improvement makes our grant or makes our request more competitive because it fixes a safety issue. They probably wouldn't fund some of the aesthetic treatments, but the actual geometry or reconfiguration of the geometry of the intersection is chapter and verse for the kind of funding that they want to have. So, and that was one of the conversations we've had internally, is that we don't want to separate this intersection, or frankly the Broadway and Main intersection. We don't want to remove that from the LRIP application because it would make our application less competitive, because we're not correcting safety issues at intersections. So it's actually the reverse of kind of maybe what it looks like on its face. Yes, the aesthetic treatments are going to be a local share, but the actual kind of brick and mortar, the geometry of the intersection is exactly what we want to have in there.
Okay, so then another question, because we're talking about I want to make sure we're in the right spot. The Main Street and Broadway one that's down by the Public Utilities building. Is that included in this grant? Because I don't feel like we landed on what that intersection should look like.
Well, so that grant is coming to the council later on this year, but the council didn't adopt the master plan for that intersection alignment previously. So you're welcome to change it, but it has been approved by the council in some way, but it can be changed.
Let's take a look at the grant application in a different way, right?
Correct.
Should we focus our conversation just on this intersection for the time being?
The council's prerogative.
In the interest of time, let's focus it on just what's in the presentation, if that's okay, Christy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, because I love this intersection, my last comments, I love this intersection reconfiguration here by Casey's. I think it makes sense and it's good. I am not in favor of the way it's configured down by the Getaway and the Public Utilities building. So thank you.
Thanks. Eric?
So we talked about this, I remember this conversation, as Brent says, that fixes a safety issue. And it bolsters our ask. So I'm absolutely for this. As long as it fits into the LRIP request, yeah, for sure.
And again, the LRIP is going to come to you later this fall.
I think we're going to October 20. November.
Later this fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this looks good. I am trusting you guys on your grant application prowess. Do not have, it's a complicated thing and the strategy is hard. So if you say this should be in there, great. I think it makes sense to include it also, knowing that we have Mount Hope Road will be under construction next year. It would be nice if we could get that grant this year and be able to do all of that at once.
And I think frankly, the number one thing that's hurting us is we got the same funding for 6th Street West, like less than 5 years ago. So, or maybe less than 3 years ago, frankly. So, but we do think we have a good project. So we just wanted to show you the relationship between the two, so.
Yeah, last cycle we missed by like 2 spots, so it was really competitive last time. And that was coming fresh off of the 6th-year application, so I'm still feeling good about what we have. What's next is.
I like this, I think this is great, I like the idea of safety, of course, but I also like the idea of objects, so slowing down traffic as it's coming into our community. That said, it was either or, and I'm not getting the impression that it is, I'm still like the trail better. I guess my question is, do we have to, because I'm thinking of, again, kind of what you spoke about, the optics of doing a project, completing a project, let's say we do Mount Hope, and then being able to do this 2 years later in the optics. We poor residents don't love tearing up anything, fresh concrete, fresh asphalt, you name it. Do we have to complete Mount Hope end to end of the state aid route? Or can we stop at 5th Street East, or can we stop at Lions Park, knowing that we're holding out for that trail addition or those intersection improvements, but we don't have the money for it yet?
Yeah, you can segment it if you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that's completely our project in our pavement management plan, so you can do anything you want, like.
Not ideal, but I think, again, like, and maybe the trail can go in when we've got the funding figured out at a later date. But like, clearly it would make more sense to do construction on all of Mount Hope in one construction season.
We'll do can you go to open house slides?
Yeah.
We'll do the open house, well, this month, and then we'll report back to you in November with what we've learned. And then we can kind of dig into this a little bit more. But we understand what some of the pinch points are, and we'll come back to you with some more information.
Would the Mount Hope Road along the lower half be conducive to waiting to complete that part of the road until later on? So I know we're getting close to the break point on the north part of Mount Hope.
we're already assuming a recommendation, so.
Okay. So it doesn't
If you
change
have
the
to wait a
overall
year or two,
project.
it really doesn't matter.
But it's not in great shape.
No, I mean, it's how long you're willing to take comments from residents and patch it and all those sorts of things too, so.
Understood. Thank you.
I think Mount Hope Road got kicked a couple of years previously, and I know that those folks are aware of hearing that. Okay. Keep going.
Okay, so next steps, obviously, we got a lot of good feedback tonight. When we bring this back to council again this fall, we kind of talk through those specifics. We'll probably have some more refined information for you to review. At which point you can authorize the preparation of plans and specs. And we'll start getting to work on that. This fall, we want to get the survey work done, get the soil borings in the road done, so we can use all that information this winter as we design the project. And then ultimately looking to bid it in spring, so that is where things sit for possible next steps.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need anything else from us?
No, that was a great discussion.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the water meter presentation. Shooty, Mr. Simmons. You don't have to.
Oh. I can say whatever I want, sounds like.
Nope.
I'm kidding. That was a joke. So thank you, for letting us present this, project, proposal. And just giving you a little bit more information about what is AMI tonight. We have, Dan Moore here from Core Maine. He is the specialist, and so he will just talk briefly, because we could probably talk hours about this technology, as it's not just utility billing that uses it, it is used all over the globe for different kinds of electricity, all different types of utility readings. So with that, I will introduce Dan Moore from Core Maine to give us a little bit of information about AMI. Thanks,
Nice
Dan.
to meet you all.
Welcome, Dan.
You want to sit here?
Here's a quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no pressure, Dan. Our city council meeting, begins at 7 o'clock. We generally break from 6:50 until 7. Again, like no pressure, you've got a half an hour, but if we need, we might
Oh.
pause maybe the discussion and then pick it back up during our.
All
regular-
good. I was
Again,
only
like,
expecting
no
10
pressure.
minutes, so,
Well, expecting 4 hours.
it could go either way. It's up to you guys. No, I'm just here to kind of explain it a little bit and answer any questions you guys might have and, just kind of let you know what we're working towards. So I might not know how to do it either. In an effort to save time, I'll just breeze through most of these. My information is here. You can get it. I can get you a card or from Lynn or whoever if we need to.
I'm jumping ahead because I didn't think it was working, so there you go.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This little information, the company that I work for is called Core & Main. We're a distributor of Census water metering products. We don't need to go into heavy detail on that. Meat and potatoes of it. What we're hoping to cover today, what is AMI, Advanced Metering Infrastructure. What you have right now is what we call a walk-by drive-by system. The advanced metering infrastructure, you put an antenna on a tower on an asset and it communicates with your water meters and other devices out in the system in real time and brings you, hourly reads and data, versus how you do it now is, nothing other than once a month you go out and you get your reads. So, most commonly what happens is, you'll have a customer that's got a toilet leaking or they forget their garden hose on or whatever the case may be. And because you don't have that data or you're not monitoring it, we don't know that until now a month has gone by and they've gone through how many thousand gallons of water. There are a lot of advantages to it. Saving time for your people that go out and do the reads, being more proactive, having the data, having the reports. Like I said, I could talk for a long time about it. It's hard to monetize those benefits. A lot of times when finance people look at the system and they want to justify it with dollars and cents and say, okay, well, this is, we pay Joe X amount of dollars per hour, it takes them this many hours to read. And, so they kind of say, okay, well, this is what it costs us to read meters versus this is what the AMI system costs. It's tough to compare them that way because there's so many benefits to the AMI system that are hard to monetize and say, yes, it's a benefit, but what is that worth in dollars and cents? I think, in talking to cities that have it, you'll find that it's justifiable. It's needed. It's a great benefit to the city, for many reasons. And, like I said, there are a lot of benefits that come along with it, aside from just customer service and, streamlining your people that are already, spread pretty thin. There's a lot more you can do with it beyond reading water meters as well. You get, alerts and alarms for leaks and things like that, reports, two-way communication. So there's, things you can do aside, like I said, aside from just reading water meters. We can actually shut certain ones off. We can send firmware updates and a lot of things like that. Some of the other cities around you that are already utilizing AMI, Andover, Buffalo, Blaine, Big Lake, Columbia Heights, Crystal, Dayton, Delano, Egan, Burnsville, Elk River, Hector, Hutchinson, Lake Elmo, Long Prairie. You guys can read them. I don't have to read them all off, but you can see large and small. I mean, we've got cities with 200, 250 accounts that are on AMI. obviously the larger the city, the more return on investment you're gonna get, but also it costs more because it's, you know, based off of the size of the city as well too, but. Timeline for implementation, we could have the antennas on your tower very quickly, 6-8 weeks. That the hardware side of it doesn't take long. You know, in about the same amount of time, have it integrated and implemented as well. You do have a good number of older radios in your system that are not AMI compatible. So that's kind of the other piece of this puzzle is we're looking to upgrade those older radios that aren't compatible nearing the end of their life to get them so they are AMI compatible so that when we bring these towers up, they will be included in your system as well. So we don't have to kind of have two systems and, you know, some of it's AMI, some of it you're still reading walk by drive by. Obviously you would want everything on AMI. But in terms of a timetable, it kind of just depends on how you go about the installation process of getting those old radios updated. Another benefit to the AMI system, you would have access to what they call a customer portal, which Lynn and these guys have kind of asked about a little bit. And a customer portal is essentially where the homeowners, once you have this data flowing in and you have got access to it, a customer portal would allow the residents to actually go in and see their usage and monitor their usage as well. They would also be able to receive alerts and alarms, and obviously there's a lot, you know, you can scale that customer portal with what you want it to be able to do. Online bill pay and things like that are part of it, and we can get into that stuff at a different time. But just so you know that with the AMI technology, customer portal is something that would be available with that. A little bit about the water meter. This is our residential water meter that you guys are already currently using and looking to upgrade more and more to. It's just a more advanced meter than your traditional positive displacement mechanical meters. This is an electromag meter, so it's much more accurate, sensitive. I guess the biggest thing with this is it offers the alerts and the alarms and the things that all the bells and whistles that you're looking for. And at the same time, kind of maximizes your revenue because of its accuracy and low flow capabilities, which is where a lot of the usage, residential usage is, and a lot of it gets missed there. You're really maximizing your revenue by upgrading to a newer style meter like this. This is a chart on the alarms that the meter is capable of. We don't need to go through all of that right now. This is a newer.
I had a question. That it says low battery detected. Do these have batteries that the consumer, that our residents will have to change regularly?
Nope, they're not changeable. They're not field replaceable batteries. Basically, that's the battery is essentially the life of the meter. And all of our meters and radios and everything have a 20-year warranty, 15 and 5. So 15-year full replacement, 5-year prorated warranty. The battery that's in the water meter is actually the manufacturer of the battery considers it like a 28 or a 29-year battery. Census warranties the entire device and the accuracy of that device for 20 years. So you can expect 20 plus years of life out of it. Any other questions? I'm moving fast because I'm trying to.
So if after 6 years that you need to replace it, roughly what would a prorated?
After 6 years?
Yeah.
That would be a full replacement up until 15 years. So I guess the prorate would kick in after 15. So like years 15 to 20 is when it would be prorated.
So years 6 through 14.
No, years 1 through 15. If anything happens to that meter within the first 15 years of its life, it's full replacement. You pull it out, you give it to me, I give you a brand new one free.
You're roughly, are we talking like $100, 1,000?
I'd have to look at the chart. It's a percentage based off of the list price. So it would
Just
be,
a ballpark number.
I think you would lose, 20% for the next 5 years? Something along those lines. I'd have to look at the warranty information. I can get you that information. I don't know right off the top of my head how the prorating actually shakes out. Question, Christy?
As long as we're on this slide, I had a question. So I was looking at the broken pipe one. I'm just going to use this one as an example so that I can ask the question. So at the end, it says transmitted by weekly alarm message. So does that mean if you have a broken pipe, you don't get a message? I don't understand the weekly message. Does it come in real time? So if my pipe breaks in an hour from now, do I get some kind of alert, or how does that work?
I think that transmitted by is, that's how Census is classifying that type of a message. But no, you would get that within like 24 hours. So just like the customer leak alarm, you know, if that meter sees continuous flow for 24 hours, and we can actually we can change it. We can kind of reconfigure some of these alarms as well, and you can set it to, like the leak alarm, you can change it. They're kind of customizable for when you want it to alert you and how you want it to alert you. But no, you would get that message, you know, within 24 hours.
Okay, because to me, if you're looking at a broken pipe, that's a heavy water flow that's probably drowning out, right? So,
Yep.
if you're getting it 24 hours later, your house is already done for at that point.
Right.
So that's why I was curious if it's coming in, if there's, like you said, if there's settings or something so that there's a more timely alert to folks who have this in case some of these big things. You know, if you have a little bit of backflow or leak, you know, some of these maybe, or the low battery one, are not going to be maybe high priority. Maybe they are, but I know looking at like broken pipe, you might have a big mess on your hands, and then a 24-hour later notification doesn't really do you a lot of good.
Right. So the leak alarm I know is 24 hours because it needs to see that low flow for an extended period to know that it's a leak, as opposed to just normal usage. The broken pipe one, I think I'll have to look a little bit more into it. There's so many alarms, I don't know them all inside and out. I'll have to look at it a little bit closer, but it may depend upon how we have the settings set, like how many gallons per minute flows through for an extended period of time. And again, those are kind of customizable. Do we want it, you know, X amount of gallons per minute for X amount of consecutive hours? Some of those are programmable. So,
and just to be clear, like the alarm isn't telling you that the pipe is broken. It's telling you that you have usage that's consistent with a broken.
Right.
It's
likely, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
but you're gonna see a like a high volume flow coming, and that's why you're gonna get that alarm. So I just wanted to make sure if it's something that, because if it comes out a week later, it's too late on something like that. So if you could maybe get back to us on that, that would be great.
Some clarification on exactly how these alarms work in the system and how we can customize them as well.
Okay, and then one more question, maybe I missed it. When the alarm goes, who does the alarm go to, the city or the homeowner?
So through the software, it's set to go to the city. So we can set individuals' email addresses or text messages. If you have a customer portal, it depends how that is set up. But same thing, it would be email or text message, depending on how you want to do that.
That would come to the homeowner, or that would go?
It would only go to the homeowner if you have customer portal, which is a separate additional widget that can be added on to your AMI system.
Okay, so Brent, if we were to go with this, and then I don't know who in our employee group would be getting these messages, these alerts. What would we do? How can we handle that? Who would do that?
That is up to you guys how the city decides you want to handle that.
Might be
That's a Brent.
Lynn or Ashley or Mallory, depends on the day, but, you know, I would offer that one of the bigger flashpoints between residents and, well, you can't see me now. Legal. Between residents and the city, it's our leaks.
Sure.
You know, whether it's a toilet or someone left an outdoor faucet on, and so, I'm not assigning a value judgment, that's up to the council. I would say that it'll give us an opportunity to reach out, and we have the ability to do that prior to someone getting a, 30,000 gallon water bill.
Right.
When we're trying to, because our message is water used is water used. Sometimes we can do something on sewer if it's an outdoor spigot. But it still costs the city the same amount to treat a gallon of water, whether it's intentional or unintentional. So, I would say that, to your question, Councilmember Conrad, we'd have to set up our own kind of protocol for how we do that, but we feel like we could. It's just a matter of we haven't gotten that far because we don't know if this is something the council wants to invest at this point, but
Sure.
I'm not worried about the people power it would take to implement that.
Okay. So would you envision then that this is something where, because again, if are they getting alerts in the evening? I mean, is this something like on call immediate, or are we going to the next day, like an alarm came in the next day, Lynn gets here at 8 a.m. and sees we've got alarms, and now she reaches out to the homeowners? Or do you have any?
typically, and again, it's kind of up to, you guys in the utilities, how you want to handle those types of things. If you want to be reaching out to people, how you want to handle it. But typically most cities, when they come in the morning, they'll pull up their software and they'll check, to see, what alarms they've got, and things like that periodically through the day. It's this system is, you're not getting an AMI system just so that you can have somebody sitting and watch it in case a resident gets a leak. It's just, that is a benefit, to kind of help with the customer service part of it. But every city is a little bit different on how they handle these alarms and what they do with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. These are just some commercial meters. You've already got all these types of meters in your system now. So, as I mentioned, with the two-way capabilities, this is a meter. I don't know if you guys shut off water for non-payers. That is one ability with this meter. The other advantage to this meter is it's got pressure and temperature, so you could strategically place those in areas where you might want to monitor temperature or pressure, and then you would get that data as well. Downsizing meters, with the AMI technology, now that we can see usage and calculate flows and all that type of stuff, kind of discovering that a lot of apartment buildings and larger services are a lot of times oversized. So cities have been saving a lot of money in recent years by downsizing or right-sizing applications to smaller meters. When you've got the AMI system, you can see, what their usage or what their kind of hourly flows are, what their high flows are, to help you determine where you can downsize meters and save yourself a little bit of money there. This talks about the radios. We talked about the warranty already. We don't have to get super technical with this stuff. This talks about our network a little bit. Basically just showing devices in the field, coming up to the antenna and into the head end system. And again, different types of devices that we can add on. I'll talk about at the end here if we've got time. It is
Sorry to interrupt, but just for those watching and the council, can you just describe the difference between the technology we use today and this technology from a public services technician perspective? How do they use it? How do we collect meter information today, and what it would look like if we used this? I think that would be helpful for the council.
So I've got some slides of what the actual software looks like. And
Just from a 10,000.
yeah, and I think some of those questions will get answered as we get into those slides. But essentially, it's right now what you're using. You're using iPro water meters already, so you're already using the Electromag residential meters. And the newer radios, the radios that you've been installing for the last number of years, are already the AMI capable radios. So we're actually using the same hardware in the field. The water meters and the radios are the same, whether you're reading them monthly or quarterly or whatever in walk by drive by mode, versus if you have an antenna up and you're getting hourly data from these meters. It's the same hardware in the field. The meters and radios are the same.
Like level of effort. It's gonna take, maybe Andrew can help here, but it's gonna take X amount of hours to do it the way we do it now, and why.
So the big difference is there. Obviously, right now you have to send personnel out in the field with a handheld device and drive the entire city, and going slow, getting reads. It's a little bit of a tedious process. I mean, I can sit outside of a house and I just have to wait, and your read will pop in, and then I can go on. So it's a little bit time consuming. And probably what's more time consuming is after they go out and get all of the reads, they come in, pull the data into the system, then your utility billing clerks, you see, okay, we didn't get, they print out a list, we didn't get these for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's about 480 hours for the guys to read annually and 200 hours for actually to load and troubleshoot.
And so as long as it takes to read right now, it takes probably as long or longer for them to go back and get those last stragglers that they didn't get the first time around. And it may be because a wire's broke or something needs to be repaired, or they just, didn't get close enough or went too fast or whatever the case may be. But getting those last, that no read list is time consuming. So.
And let me add on to that. When we talk about the wires broke, that is the piece that goes on the outside of the house that we needed to communicate to us. And so it could just be as simple as somebody got new siding and they didn't let us know. And so we didn't go out there and fix that. Now, if we had the AMI with the alerts set up, it could say, this home isn't communicating, ding, 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 instead of it being a month later, and then we get a no read, and now we've spent 4 hours on that one home, so
you're
that's
being,
an example.
yeah, you're being much more proactive with the system, because right now, even though it's going to read, it's going to be an automated process. Your personnel will be able to be more proactive and see, okay, we've got this house and this house and this house that aren't communicating right now. They can go out and take care of that prior to the day that you're going to read and bill. They can do that on their own time when it's best for them. And that's where I mentioned it helps streamline all of these processes, because now they can do it on their own time. They've got 3 or 4 weeks to do it. They know when they're going to be reading. So they can have the whole system keep it working optimally, so that day when you guys want to get your reads and do your billing, you've got all of those reads, because they've been monitoring it all month and keeping up on everything and keeping everything working, as opposed to working retroactively and going, okay, we didn't get all these reads. Now we have to go out, scramble, fix everything because we want to get our bills out. It's just gives you the ability to just streamline things and be much more proactive with your system, and use time much more efficiently.
So that was just kind of like an overview, and I know that we're getting short on time. So does council want any more information? Would you like to ask questions? Did you want Dan to go into the regular session?
Can you advance to that last slide that shows other cities?
Yep.
Okay, so this here is your prop study. This kind of just shows Carver and your coverage. slide you were looking for. This is all software stuff. Here's a slide.
Yep. So these are peer cities that we often compare a lot of our key points to, our key point indicators. And this, I have the population, the city, and then what vendor they use. I added additional cities that Dana provided as well. And Ashley did ask additional questions to some of these cities. So if you're curious, I can also get back to you those.
Questions?
Just a quick general question. So technology can become obsolete prematurely because there's some proprietary piece of supported software or portal. And the company that does that ceases to exist. In this kind of system, how much of it do we own and can we just carry on forward without some proprietary portal?
Well, I guess what would be proprietary here would be the census, the actual software that you use to read this. So you're going to depend on census for that. But I mean, if census went away or if something were to happen to that, I mean, a large portion of the country would be in the same shoes as you guys. So I obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but I wouldn't anticipate that happening. Not only that, but they try to be very good at being backwards compatible, meaning as the technology advances and progresses, they try to keep the legacy stuff working with the new technology as long as they possibly can. But yep, thank you.
My question is for Andrew, actually. What percentage of our meters need to be updated in order for this system to work?
I don't know the percentage, but I think was around 800 or 500. It's 500 to 800.
Meters and 850 MSUs.
We map them all
Okay.
based on the information that Dan gave us.
Did you say 500 meters and
850 MXUs, and some of those, the MXUs are the
That's
on
for
the
the
outside.
radio. So you've got a water meter and then you've got a radio, and the radio actually is what communicates with the tower.
So more radios need to be updated than actual meters. Yeah. And then, I know they have lives on them. Are those meters that we're discussing and those radio units that we're discussing, are they coming up on the end of their useful lives anyway? About when would we expect those to have to be replaced as it stands right now?
They're gonna go as time progresses. They're not gonna shut off.
No, I understand that, but do we have
This
5 years of expected useful life? Or we
This is kind of like the road and trail situation. If you're gonna do one, you might as well do the other. So if we're gonna have to replace these meters anyways because they're dying and we're not getting as accurate flows on them as we should, and we're gonna upgrade those meters to this new technology, we might as well use this technology.
Yeah, but I understand that.
When did you do the original meter? I
That's
mean,
what you're looking for as a year,
Yeah.
and I don't think I can provide you with that,
Okay.
but I can look into it.
Okay, that would
Okay.
be great. Cause I was
Absolutely.
just curious, do we have 5 years of useful life on those meters that are
Yes.
still out there, or do we have a decade?
Or have they gone past?
Yeah, or
Yes.
are we on borrowed time?
I'll look into that for you, yep.
Thank you.
Christy, anything from you? Okay, Christy's shaking her head no. So I just want to make sure I understand this. So we would need 500 meters, 850 radios, 2 base stations. And that's what we need to convert over. And then if we want to make it so that me as the customer, as the resident, can see if I need to yell at my partner to start taking shorter showers, we need to be part of this customer portal that's an additional.
if you want to have access to that hourly data, yes, that's what's up. It's getting to be more and more. It used to be, well, I take that back. I was thinking 2 different things. It used to be that we had a smaller percentage of customer participation within the portals, which is gaining traction now. As far as how many, I don't know the percentage of the ones that have customer portal. I can do some checking around, but I know that it's becoming much more popular as the technology is getting better. The cities are finding out about it. And the AMI is not new, but relatively new. And so a lot of our customers that have been on AMI for many years are now bringing the additional, you know, the portal and stuff like that on, kind of adopting that later on. Now that they've got their feet in the water with the rest of it and they've got their system established, now they're starting to add customer portals on.
We're coming close to time. I think we've given you a list of.
Yeah,
more
if you guys
items.
have any more questions, you can.
And you'll get Lynn.
Yep.
To answer those. I think we'll look forward to. Thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank
coming
you.
out.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We have a couple items on the work session agenda that I would like to vote meeting. And then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I'll second. We got a motion from Councilmember Pasco and a second from Councilmember Sayer. All those in favor say aye.
I need to do a roll call.
Yeah, we sure do. Go ahead.
Councilmember Pasco. Aye. Councilmember Sayer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hirschman.
Aye.
Councilmember Conrad.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. We are adjourned from the work session. Great. Good evening, everybody who joined us tonight. You just caught